All right. Hello and welcome back to Content and Conversations Live. I am Ryan Dowdy, your host, and today we are going to have a really fun conversation about sales messaging. So I have written down six ways that your sales message mistakes that you're possibly making in your sales messaging and what to do instead. And so I will be 100% honest with you. I kind of toyed around with what should we call this? Is it sales messaging? Is it social media content? But I went with sales messaging because if you're making these mistakes in any of your messaging, whether this messaging is happening on social media, whether it's happening in your email, whether it's on your sales pages, whether it's happening in the DMs and your sales conversations, there is probably a missed opportunity. So rather than saying, hey, the 6 mistakes that you're making in your social media content creation, I decided to go with here are 6 mistakes that you're likely making in your sales messaging and what to do instead, because I think that is really, really important, and you're going to be able to make some pretty quick shifts to get some quick wins in your content creation. So let's dive in. So the first thing, and it's so funny that this is a mistake because this is definitely something that I used to teach back in the day. And this is such a fun part of like growing as a business owner and growing in our skill sets, but that you're spending a lot of time overcoming objections. If you were spending a lot of time overcoming objections in your content, so again, social media content, in your emails, then it's a possibility that you're turning people off. And let me tell you why. Because I'm a big believer in energy, and I'm a big believer on what we focus on expands. And if we spend a lot of our time, effort, and energy overcoming objections, what we are very likely attracting into our world, into our ecosystem with our marketing are people with objections, right? If we spend all the time in our messaging talking about why you need to come up with the money to invest in ABC, XYZ, or why now is the time to do this, and you do it excessively, you're going to wind up just attracting people that have objections. So what I like to do instead is speak to the result. So instead of being like, this is why you need to come up with the money for what I do, it's here is the result that you get when you work with us. And I don't care if you're an accountant, if you're a coach, if you're a marketer, if you're a VA, I really don't care, right? This is the result that you get by working with me. And this is absolutely positively priceless. Right? So instead of telling me this is why I need to come up with the money to make this investment, tell me why these results are priceless for the person that you get the best results for, because it's a very small shift. It's a very small nuance, but I promise you it's going to make a difference in who you actually attract, because you want to attract clients who don't have objections. You want to attract clients who see the value in priceless. You want to attract clients who want that result. So in your messaging, and again, all the different places it might be showing up, you want to make sure that you are speaking to that versus spending all of the time overcoming objections. Because again, overcoming objections typically can feel heavy. It can feel salesy. Most people aren't really awesome at doing it. And sometimes it makes your people feel bad. And we don't ever want to make anybody feel bad in our marketing. So just really looking through all of the content that you've created over the past 30, 60, 90 days and be like, how much effort and energy am I putting into overcoming objections instead of empowering my people, instead of selling my result? Because I would rather have empowered people who want the result that I offer than overcoming objections and have somebody feel convinced to buy anything from me. Same thing in your sales conversations. I just want to be clear there. This doesn't just have to be in your sales, in your written content, right? Or your one-way content. This is even in the sales conversations. And again, 2-3 years ago, I would have told you like, this is exactly how you overcome objections. And now I'm not trying to overcome anybody objections. What I'm trying to do is empower that person to make a decision. What I'm trying to do is help that person get the result that they desire and make an empowered decision to see, is it my solution that's going to get them there, right? So the first thing is the mistake that you're making in your sales messaging is you're spending too much time overcoming objections, which is attracting the wrong people. The second mistake that you may be making in your sales messaging is that you're not talking about the starting point, meaning where is your ideal client starting from? And I'm going to give you an example. So say, for instance, it's a business coach and you tell people, I help people make $1 million. And everyone's like, amazing, I want $1 million. And so you have an inbox full of people who want to make $1 million, but all of them have no business idea, right? Which is fine if you're a business coach that works with people with no business idea and helps them find that business idea and then to make $1 million. But if you're a business coach who works with people who are at the $250,000 to $300,000 a year range, revenue-wise in their business, and they want to get to $1 million in revenue in their business, right? If that's where you want to go, then you need to talk about the starting point. And so many people are missing this. And that's why they're getting so many unqualified people on sales calls, in their DMs, in conversations, all those different things in their webinars, launches, challenges, is because they're not saying the starting point. Like the client who gets the best result working with us is this person. Our client's already making $250,000 to $300,000 a year, and they would like to make $1 million. That's who I get the best results for, right? That's what you need to lean into in your marketing. So if you are a mindset coach, right, and you really like to play in energy and energetics and stuff, then you need mindset coaching clients that are somewhat familiar with the space, right? Jumping straight into energetics and all that different stuff with somebody who has no awareness of it is going to be a challenge, right? So there might be people again who want the promise of what it is that you provide, but they aren't going to be ready to buy because they are not at the right starting point to get the best results from you. So being really clear is what is the starting point? Where are they at currently, right? What is the current state of that person? You want to make sure that there is mention of that in your marketing. So again, for instance, as an agency, we really don't work with a lot of newbies, meaning if you don't know who your ideal client is, the problem that you solve, if you don't know those things, we're not a great fit for you. So we aren't marketing to the brand new business owner. We don't ever talk about signing your first clients. We don't ever talk about that. We talk about how to elevate what you're already doing, how to make it better, how to improve it, because again there has to be a baseline there if people are going to improve. So being really mindful of that, and again this could come up in your social media content, this can come up in your emails, this can come in your sales pages, this can come up in your stories, reels, TikToks, etc. And then of course in your conversations in the DMs, always that first question being like, hey, where are you at currently? Because if somebody says, oh well, they give you the information of that they're not at the starting point, then you don't even have to waste your time in that conversation. And I know that that sounds callous to say like you're wasting your time talking to people, but that's the number one objection that I get from people is like, I don't want to waste my time in a bunch of conversations that aren't the right conversations. Well, cool. Then what is the starting point of your ideal client? Pinpoint that, ask that question, and then you're never going to waste your time in a conversation. But even better if you empower them to decide that ahead of time, because you call it out in the marketing that you're doing. So the first mistake that you're making in your sales messaging is you're overcoming too many objections. And the second is that you're not calling out the starting point of where your ideal client is. The third mistake that you may be making in your sales messaging and what to do instead is that you're not saying the hard stuff, right? As humans, we don't want to piss people off, but oftentimes we have to say the hard thing to make sure that we are attracting the right people. So an example for us as an agency, I always talk about, I never make what we do sound easy, right? Not because it's hard, because we're good at it and it comes very naturally to us and we can deliver in a very easy way. But I'm not trying to attract clients that want an easy button. I am not an easy button. I'm not looking for easy button people who want to make $1 million overnight, right? That's just not who we are. That's not how we serve. It's not what we do. That's not who I want to attract into my ecosystem. So I am very candid in my marketing to talk about the fact that, yeah, sometimes it's going to take you 30, 60, 90 days to really see the results that you want here. And you're going to have to take consistent effort to make that happen. And I say that because I don't want anybody who is going to pay me and 2 weeks later tell me it's not working. It's not working. This is so hard. Yeah, I know. So I say the hard things in my marketing so that I don't get those people. Or when they do come back and say, this is hard, this isn't working, I'll be like, well, we've only been doing it for 12 days, right? We've only been doing it for 12 days. So yes, of course, right? But when we say the hard things in our marketing, when we put the hard things in our emails, when we show up and we say that stuff, then we don't even attract those people to begin with. They're completely turned off by us because we're not offering the easy button. We're not offering whatever. So that is something that I feel like so many people are afraid of being polarizing or rocking the boat or pissing people off or turning people off or turning away business, that they're afraid to say the hard stuff. And that is actually what I think is probably the difference between like a mediocre marketer and a good marketer. Like somebody who's getting kick-ass results from their marketing is saying the hard things that their audience actually needs to hear to get them into action, right? So not just the hard internal stuff, but the hard external stuff, right? Like sales and marketing, if you don't know, it can be really freaking hard. That's why you partner with somebody like us. So, those are the types of things that I'm saying. Like, what hard things are you not saying that wind up attracting somebody who wants overnight success or a different kind of result that you're willing, that you provide? Okay, so that's the third thing. The fourth mistake that you may be making in your messaging and what to do instead is that you are not talking enough about your experience and your expertise. And I wrote this one down because this is one for me. I actually have a girlfriend who kind of called me out on this in the DMs the other day. She was like, right, I can't remember the last time you talked about like your 15 years of corporate experience. Like you've literally advised thousands of people on their sales and marketing strategy. And you have a team of people who you have taught your frameworks. Like, of course, you guys are a no-brainer for anybody that needs help with their sales, marketing, content creation, conversations, etc. But you're not touting your expertise enough. You're not telling people the experience that you have that makes you a better choice than ABCXYZ. And I was like, holy shit, you're right. Right. So I obviously made it on my list of like, are you actually telling people? And I just coached a client through this last week. Like, are you telling people why you are the best choice in what you do? And this is so hard, especially for my women business owners, because we get really caught up in the idea of like, I don't want to brag. had this whole conversation. Actually, I had it twice with this same client where she's so afraid to brag about herself. Well, first of all, choose a different word, because I understand why the word brag brings up negative things, right? It doesn't feel good in our body when we feel like we're bragging. Like, nobody wants to brag. If you even look up the dictionary definition of brag, it doesn't have a positive connotation with it. So I 1000% understand why you may not like that word. Okay. But if we do not tell people how awesome we are, how are they going to know? How are they going to know? Like, how are people, unless I depend on people to like go to my LinkedIn and dig past through all of my history, how is anybody actually going to know that I have been doing what I've been doing since 2005? For 18 years, I have been consulting people on their advertising and their marketing, how to sell more shit. No one's going to go do that research on their own. So I have to tell them. It is my job as a marketer to tell people why I am as an expert at what I do. And so this, like I said, it makes people so uncomfortable because they don't want to brag or they have a hard time talking about themselves. But if you are not doing this, people might not, they're like, oh, well, I like this person and I like their content, but I don't know why they're an expert. I don't know why I should trust them. So telling people what qualifies you to do the things, especially on the internet right now, right? Like consumer, what's the word? Consumers, they're using a lot of discernment right now, right? Like consumer confidence, that's the word I'm looking for, is at an all-time low. They are not buying from anybody that they are not confident is going to get them a result. What is the fastest way to get them confident, make them confident, is to tell them why they should trust you. Because especially if you play in online marketing land, if you are somebody who plays in online marketing land, this is one of the most important things that you can do, because there are so many people in online marketing land who actually have no real business experience, right? Like the number of business coaches who have never actually run a successful business or been part of a successful business other than the coaching practice that they're running right now is terrifying, right? So, and business is one example. There's probably, like, thinking of bookkeepers, right? There's a lot of people that took a course on the internet to learn how to become a bookkeeper. If you actually like spent 15 years as a bookkeeper in a company, you should tell people that, because I don't want the online course taught bookkeeper. I want like the actual real life bookkeeper who has real life experience, right? But nobody's telling those stories. So I know why I should choose between bookkeeper A and bookkeeper B, or business coach A and business coach B, or health coach A and health coach B, right? Like if you're a consumer of your own medicine as a health coach and you're like, well, I've done the work, I've lost the 50 pounds. I want to know that, versus the health coach is like, well, I just went to school and studied and I have it, but I've never actually experienced. I don't know how you're feeling. I've never been through what you've been through. Again, I want the person with the experience. But so it's just being really mindful of making sure that we're telling those things, because that's going to be the difference between somebody buying from you and buying from somebody else. Okay. So that's the fourth one. Our fifth sales messaging mistake you might be making. And excuse me, and what to do instead is to let go of judgment, of your ideal client. Okay. So this is one that comes in a lot of different places. This is one where people tell me like, my audience is full of freebie seekers, or I keep taking sales calls, but nobody has any money, or I don't want to do this because my audience is this, or my audience is that. And we're just judging the shit out of the people that we serve. And when we judge the people that we serve, right, when we think that everybody's broke, nobody has any money, nobody wants to invest, nobody sees value in what I do, we're just muddying the waters energetically. And when we wind up attracting those exact people. And guys, I used to be so guilty of this. I remember when I started my very first Facebook group, and there were like 200 some odd people in it. And for some reason, I wasn't making millions of dollars off my 200-person Facebook group. And I just thought that I had the wrong audience and the wrong people. And these people don't want to invest. They just want to pick my brain for free. And I was like, no, that's about me, not about them. Right. And so the number of people that they're like, well, I hesitate to talk about this because then I'm going to attract this type of person. Or when I talk about this, then I just get a bunch of freebie seekers. Or when I do this, this happens. And we're judging the people in our audience instead of being like, no, right? Even if it is just 200 people, out of the 200 people, are there not 10 people in that audience who actually need what you have to offer? So people are literally not showing up. They're not serving. They're not actually talking about their things because they're judging the shit out of their audience. Or I don't want to DM. This is my favorite. Like, my people don't like DMs. Fuck that. Pardon my French, right? Like, stop it. How do you know? How do you know they don't like DMs? You've never DM'd them. Right. And I shared this actually on social media a few weeks ago. We were doing an outbound campaign and we were sharing a free resource with people. And it was going really, really beautifully. And we had 2 people out of almost like 100 outbound DMs. We had 2 people block us. 2 people got mad. Imagine being like, DMs don't work because 2 people got mad out of 100. Right. Whereas like 40 some odd of those people actually wanted the free resource that we were sharing with them. Like, how crazy is that? but we are judging the shit out of our people. Or we get on a sales call with somebody and they don't want to buy. And then we're like, oh, I just have an audience of freebie seekers. And so we're judging our audiences, and then we're changing how we show up based on the judgment of who we think is out there. Instead of being like, yes, of course, there are people who aren't going to buy our stuff. There are people who just want to talk to us for free. There are people who are not the right people, but that's fine. Right? That's perfectly fine. Let those people be there, because I know that my ideal client, the people who want to invest, and also a lot of the times our content, our sales activity is geared towards that judgment of that person, right? So people are like serious inquiries only, right? Because they want to not attract the freebie seeker. Like what is that? Or I talked about this on social media last week when people are like, no pitch, I promise no pitch. Like, what? Why? You're a business owner. Like, you can't pay your mortgage if you don't, like, I'm on a soapbox, on a big soapbox right now, right? But judging your audience or judging yourself and then curtailing your marketing, again, whether it's your content, your emails, your sales pages, your DMs, your sales conversations, based on the judgment of that people, is costing you thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. So if you're judging your people and you're trying to screen out that person that you're judging in your marketing, it's costing you, I promise. Okay. And then the sixth and final thing, sales messaging mistake that you might be making and what to do instead, is that you're not telling any stories. There's nothing personal in your marketing. And this is something, again, guys, this is one that happens for me too, because I'm a high D in the disc, and I'm very direct. So telling you like fluffy stories and all of that is not my first reaction. It's not how I show up automatically. I have to very intentionally remind myself to sell stories. I have to very intentionally remind myself to humanize what I'm doing, because what I want to do is just give you the information. Like, I just want to tell you, this is why we're fucking amazing. This is why you should buy stuff from us. This is why I'm good at what I do. Buy here, right? Like, that's what I want to do. That is my first inclination, but that's not human nature. That's not well received. So I have to learn to, how do I package this up in a story so that it connects to people's brains in the right way, right? How do I soften my message a little bit to make sure that they see me as a real human? And so making sure that you are actually telling stories and like being a real person in your marketing is so important. And we are hesitant to do this because we don't want to air our dirty laundry. We don't, you're like, this isn't why I'm doing this. I didn't get in here. But like, listen, friend, if you want to make money on the internet in 2023 and 2024, people are doing business with people. And as I mentioned before, they're more discerning than ever. So they're going to do business with the people that they feel connected with. They're going to do business with the people that they feel like share life experience with them. They're going to do business with people that they actually see as humans, right? If they see you as just a business robot, they're like, oh, that person's really good. But they're going, like, as humans, basic human need is to feel seen, heard, and understood. And we do that through connections, and we do that through story. And so if we don't tell those stories, if we don't make an effort to connect, we're going to lose a very large portion of the audience. I learned that actually only 3% of the population are high Ds. 3%, which means if I only communicate in the style that works best for me, I'm leaving out 97% of the population. 97% of the population if I'm only looking for more people like Ryan Dowie, right? So really thinking through what, for me, it's personalization, but whatever you're fighting in being personal, being a real person, telling stories, like really leaning into that, because that connection, those stories, those bonds are actually why people buy from you, because there's a million experts at what you do out there, right? We always talk about, how do I cut through the noise? How do I stand out? My market is saturated. Well, how do we stand out in a saturated market, right? It's through our story. It's through who we are as humans. It's through our shared values with our clients, not just our expertise, right? So that's such an important part of this. So I'm going to walk you through them again. So I have 6. I always take notes here for those of you that watch this live. I always have notes on a little note card. That's how I plan for this. So 6 things that you are doing in your sales messaging that is probably keeping you from making money, right? Number 1, overcoming objections. You're focused on the wrong thing. 2, you're not telling the starting point. Where is your ideal client starting from? Where are they at right now? Super important. Number 3, you're not saying the hard stuff. You're not saying the things that need to be said. You're just not. And because you're afraid of pissing people off and it's costing you money, right? Number 4, you're not talking about your experience and your expertise primarily because you're afraid of bragging. Do more of that, right? Number 5, you are judging the shit out of the people in your audience and you're trying so hard to avoid the people that you don't want to talk to that it's actually who you're attracting. And number 6 is that you're not telling your story. You're not being a real person in your marketing. And if you can infuse any of those, even just one of those or 2 of those into, again, this could be in your social content. This can be in your emails. This can be in your DMs. This can be, there's all the places that you market and you connect with people. Infusing more of this in here is automatically going to increase your conversion rate. No questions asked. Thank you all so much for being here. For those of you that are here live, I appreciate you. For those of you who listen on the podcast, thank you so much. And we will see you all next week.